Silence.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. We're a little bit late because we kind of like to be organized, so we decided at the start of the sprint to be organized and come on, wow, we're gonna go for the stream. So thank y'all so much for being patient with us as we got it together. I also had to get all the things up that I want you guys to see as we talk about like what kind of prompted this and whatnot. But before we get into all of that, I will let my lovely co-host introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Britt. My channel is Britt Writerly. It's a book and author tube where I talk about the intersections of literature and culture. ABC123. If that sounds interesting to you, head on over to my channel, watch a video, hit the like button. If you seem to like lots of the videos, then you can just smash that big red button and we can be internet friends.
Nice. I knew that would be long enough for me to get a bite of.
Shay is snacking on toast and I am snacking on frozen red grapes.
I love frozen grapes. Yeah, because I just finished a sprint and then I went to cook. And my food was ready by the start of the sprint. I was sitting here at 10:30. But then
I was like, let's plan.
Right. So, no. I did record time and I'm really proud of that. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, you guys. So this month's writerly conversation was always going to be a live. It's just a different live this month. And we are talking boosting Black. And as you know, we both are very big supporters of Black-owned businesses, Black authors. And earlier this month, I feel like maybe like 11, 12 days ago.
It was after Tutu came out.
Right. It was after it came out. August 17th is the tweet that the date that I'm looking at. So,
okay.
So 10 days. Well, what happened was Barnes and Noble decided that capitalism comes first and that they are not going to be stocking not only debut books, but books that they don't think are going to sell. They are saying that they're going to wait to see how books perform. And I'm guessing that means like on Amazon and indie booksellers before they decide to purchase these books. Now, understand that this sounds like a great business move. This sounds like a great capitalistic move. But we all know that capitalism works against us in the true thing, right? So what has happened because of this decision is Black authors, y'all know that's what I care about most, but authors of color and authors of books that have characters that are neurodivergent or they have side characters prominent on the book that might not be white, even if the main character is white, like things to show that these books are not Barnes and Noble's norm. Is the
marginalized communities, books that are featuring and prioritizing marginalized representations.
Right. Better way of saying it, more succinct. Brevity is the soul of wit. And so because of that, we're gonna go hop in a little bit of what we saw and how that spawned this. Because I feel like me and Britt kind of saw it around the same time, and because Britt read the lovely
Tutu
by wonderful author Brittany S. Lewis, she was already like, yeah, we got to do something. And I was like, you know me, I'm with it. What we want to do? What we're gonna do? So, to tell you before we go into that, this stream is aimed at boosting Black. So what we'll be doing during the sprint is we ask that during the 30-minute sprints, you reach out to either five libraries near you, and I guess also indie bookstores in case they don't have it or haven't heard of it. That could be another option for you guys as well.
You have opportunities to do both.
Right, you can definitely do both. And we're requesting the Undead Truth of Us to make sure that like this book is getting traction. And we'll give you a little bit more instructions or more insight on how to do that after we talk about Barnes & Noble. I was trying to make sure, like, because I was like, I know you want to tell your story. And I was like, wait, let's talk about the issue and then the story right before this starts.
Yes,
So
I
it
can
doesn't
give
get
my
lost.
anecdote right before we sprint. So to get
Right,
people
yeah,
to
because I
think
didn't
that
want to
I
get
will post
lost
it.
because we talked about other stuff. Great. Okay, good. We're on the same
I
page.
took notes. We're all good.
Yay. All right, y'all. Let's say hi to everybody first. Hi.
Okay.
Frankie says, Frankie Sci-Fi Session, whose book I put in the chat earlier for the last stream, the pre-order, I'll put it in during here so you guys can see it and look at it. It might be something that you guys are interested in. Wisdom, hi, love. It's been a while. I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Hello again, Elizabeth. Maybe it's Melanated. That's going to be your theme song every time you come in the chat. I don't know if I told you that already, but if I haven't, it just is. Pat, supporting as always. SM Ryan, the writer. Hey, Queen. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you so much. If you are a Black author in the chat looking for an editor for your next book, short story, anything you got going, definitely check out SM Ryan and see what her editorial things are and how you feel about those. And, you know, support Black, in case you're looking for an editor and she got the skills you needed to have. And it's a Black woman is all I'm saying. Alyssa, it's so good to see you again. Craftland, thank you. Y'all are looking fantastic. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, especially because you remember I spilled the coffee on myself earlier in the last stream. It was the whole thing. Yay! I'm glad, girl. I'm glad. All right, y'all. So let me share my screen, and we're gonna kind of go through these. So this was the tweet that sparked it. Oh no, I said Chrome tab. Chrome tab needs to be the Firefox one. Got it. All right. Sorry, I had to pull up the right one. Okay, and all these links will be in the description box. I'll put them in there during the first sprint. But what happened was Brittany Lewis tweeted out, I don't know if I've cried more. This directly affects me. It has impacted sales because my book isn't the book of the season. It means you won't find it in that store and grab it off the shelf. My Black voice isn't worthy enough. I waited 10 years for a slap in the face. So that's the first thing that I saw about it. And of course, that made me go into the quote tweet that she was discussing. And it's from Story Sorcery. They're on Twitter. Barnes & Noble is withholding initial support of debut hardcovers till they find evidence is worth stocking in their stores. They'll be focusing on guaranteed sales from paperbacks, a middle finger to debut authors, especially if they're mid-list and marginalized. Get mad, y'all. TradPub already don't give mid-list and marginalized authors the marketing support needed to thrive and survive. If B&N withholds their support to stock debut titles in store until they receive some sign a book is worthy, this will give TradPub more incentive to throw more money behind books they want to be considered worthy. And most of the time, the debut books TradPub uplifts are white or white appealing ones. This is bad all around. Can y'all imagine the ramifications of this in an industry that looks up to Barnes & Noble like it's a deity? As the largest U.S. book retailer, Barnes & Noble already has influence on things such as book covers. This is very true. We've talked about this in Writerly Conversations. This puts even more power into Barnes & Noble's hands, power that impacts a debut sales and career. And for those of you, I feel like there's a lot of writers in here, but also for those that aren't, the most important week of a book is the week that it debuts. That is hugely important. That's why we wanted to do this before the month was out, because it's still, it's not in the first week because it didn't happen in the first week, but we're still within that very important first month of that book, because that is what they're basing it off of, is how it's selling. And we always know that when a book comes out, that first week is when it sells the most for every author, full stop. Right, the week that a book comes out. So just to make sure we highlight that. Even if a debut doesn't hit the bestseller list, a debut author sales impact future book deals and advance sizes. Good sales can give debut authors, especially mid-list and marginalized ones, leverage at the beginning at the bargaining table. And so then she has the tweets from different authors. So there's Lane writes words, Brittany S. Lewis. And then we have a tweet from an actual Barnes & Noble bookseller that says, as a Barnes & Noble bookseller, I effing hate this. There are so many books I want to stock to sell and corporate refuses to order them. But even if they're not in our stores, you can still order them from us if you wish to. Just please support authors, especially debut and marginalized authors. Was there anything you wanted to add to this before I went to the Baruchi one?
just to say that at this point, when so many people are like, let's talk about racism and all these different things, I think we're remiss if we don't say, and I think Ibram Kendi says this in oh my gosh, what is that book he became huge for? It's How to Be Anti-Racist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the opposite of racism is not being racist. It's anti-racism.
Right.
So you can't be out here like, oh, I'm not racist. Oh, are you anti-racist? Because if you're not anti-racist, if you're not actively anti-racist, you are actively a part of the problem. And even though I'm sure Barnes and Noble's newest CEO is sitting back in his chair, secure in the fact that this is not just affecting Black and marginalized authors, that this does not say like, oh, we're only doing this to Black authors, right? It's affecting more than marginalized communities. However, we know because of other systemic things that work in publishing, this is going to disproportionately affect Black and marginalized authors. Do we need to go back to publishing paid me? Do we need to go back to the fact of them blackfishing without having actual Black characters? Publishing will lose 5 pounds working out a way to not put Black stories by Black writers out there. And so when you give them a further excuse of their sale numbers tanking because the biggest distributor refuses to distribute, like that is going to affect Black and brown writers more than anyone else. And so I think that is an important thing to highlight in this, is that it's racist. It's racist, and it's feeding into a larger system of racism in publishing that we've been shouting about in certain places and have been making, like, we have some large books that have done well. We have the Rayberry duology, we have Beasts of Prey, the trilogy, we have Wings of Ebony, we have Tiffany D. Jackson and Danielle Clayton. Like, we have big name, Nick Stone, Karen Strong. Like, it's not like we don't have Tochi Onyebuche, all these different people. Like, we do. But the fact that I can, if I sat here in 5 minutes, I could run through all those names in my head. I could just keep going, but that shouldn't take 5 minutes, and I shouldn't be able to rattle them all off in my head. Right, but we can, because we are allowed a certain number of bright stars, and then everything else is suppressed or relegated to mid-list and not given marketing support and right? So we just have to take seriously policies that come off of powerful desks like Barnes and Nobles, because it is an attack on Black and brown writers. Even if they are not using that language, that is what it is.
Most definitely, because we've heard live, seen videos, watch people talk about how, that's the number one excuse for why Black books don't get bought on submission, is because we don't believe we have a market for this. It's not going to sell. That's the number one reason that advances for Black authors are smaller, because they think that the likelihood of them getting a return on their investment is smaller, right? And these are all
happen.
Right. These are all things that this is just confirmation of with this move. So we'll just give you guys a list of books that are being refused to carry. We got The Undead Truth of Us, we got Kaylin Barron's The Vanquishers, and we know that her other books have done well, like Cinderella is Dead sold really well, and I feel like, did it hit a bestseller list once? I'm not sure, but I know that it sold really well. I know that it was widely talked about.
Yes, even on Book Talk I was seeing it around, like, so this policy already isn't making sense.
We have Kelly Yang, we have Danielle Clayton. This is also why this is important, because Danielle Clayton, again, has sold books. She's had books optioned to become movies, right? Like, didn't she do Pretty Little Things or Tiny Little Things? Yeah, Tiny Little Things, the ballet movie, right? And the ballet book that became a movie.
Yes, Tiny Pretty Things.
Tiny Pretty Things. Okay, right. I was like, it's one of those things.
Yes.
And this is, so she's proven that she can sell, right? And I feel like, is this the
What?
Yeah, no, maybe that's her debut middle grade.
Oh, I think so. I think
You're
so.
right. We have Andrea Beatrice Arango. I feel like we have one of
Yeah,
her
she
tweets
posted a reel.
Right, she posted a reel that we got right. We got Lindsay Curry, Lakin Z Kemp, Lane Writes Words, Lindsay Puckett. Lindsay Puckett is a part of the AuthorTube community, right? She's one of the young ladies that recently got her agent and actually got her book sold on submission. And this is one where we talk about what's on the cover, right? The middle grade cover, it has a chunky girl and, you know, a hijabi, which are two things that are very controversial to talk about, especially for kids, right? We got Dr. Sayatani Das Gupta. Y'all, I'm doing the best I can with some of these names. So, you know, we got Sky Quinlan, Natalie Sylvester. But as you see, it's a wide range of people being affected by this. Meg Medina, Kia Brown. And the last one on here is Lauren I don't know. I'm not even going to try. It looks like Magaziner, but I feel like that's not. I feel like her last name ain't Magaziner. I feel like it's probably.
I mean, but it may be. We can try our best to pronounce it.
You know, I tried, y'all. The point is, right? Like, because again, this features definitely an array of kids on the cover, and so the point being that there's a lot going on to harm authors, and again, we know that everything disproportionately affects minorities, but especially Black people because of the systems that are already in place. So I think we got through that part. We can have you talk about your experience and what to be mindful of with making these calls.
Yeah, so we're gonna do 2 sprints. They're both gonna be 30 minutes. The first one is going to be, we're all going to call or email if you know the people that are like, oh, I think I should email this particular person. That's fine. We're gonna contact 5 local bookstores and request the Undead Truth of Us. And if they already have it, that's great. If you know there's a 6th bookstore, call them. If you can get 5 requests, that's fine. If you just call 5 and like, oh, 3 already had it, I just have to get it at 2. Cool. We're just gonna go to 5 bookstores and confirm or request that they carry the Undead Truth of Us by Brittany S. Lewis. So I went to one of my local bookstores that's close to my house today. Look at that beautiful cover. I went to a bookstore near me that I had been to before. And this is where you need a little tenacity, because I wasn't sure what I was going to get from this particular bookstore. Because when I was on JL's street team and was asking them to stock Ashes of Gold, they acted like I wasn't speaking the King's English. They were like, we can like request it for you. I bought no less than 3 copies of Ashes of Gold. And I already had 2 by the time I went there. I was like, I don't need more copies of this book. I want other people to have access to this book at this prominent bookstore. So I would like you to stock it. And they were like, oh, well, we can't. Like, they were just very elusive about the whole thing. And so this time when I went in, I went as Britt Riderly. And I don't have a huge platform, but they don't know that. I mean, they don't know that. Am I under the 1K club? Sure. But do I have a camera? Absolutely. And we live where we live. So they were like, so I went and took my camera. I was like, hi, y'all. Walking through this bookstore, looking for who's stalking the Undead Truth of Us. Let's ask one of their employees. Hi. In the wake of the Barnes & Noble new policy that is disproportionately affecting Black and brown writers, I'm just looking for the Undead Truth of Us. Do you stock it? And she was like, we don't, but we can. And also, what happened at Barnes & Noble? So that's the other thing. Everyone does not know what has just happened with Barnes & Noble, especially if they're not on book Twitter. And so that may be a good thing for you to feed into your request of like, hi, I'm trying to support Black and brown writers. Barnes & Noble's just released this new policy that they're not going to stock hardcovers of authors' debut and non-debut authors until they have the track record. And since this disproportionately affects marginalized writers, I just want to make sure that local bookstores are stocking them. And I was wondering if you do. And if you don't, would you be willing and able to stock that book here to support marginalized authors? And I think framing it like that. And then she was like, oh, of course, like yes, we'll stock it in the store. And she ordered it, put it on their order list right there. And I think what that does is frame it as you're not going in there as an individual looking for a book. You're going in there asking your local bookstores if they're being responsible, active, anti-racist actors on the book selling stage on a national level. And so maybe like finding a way that you're comfortable articulating and framing that and referencing the Barnes and Noble, asking if they're in support of Black writers in these particular ways of stocking certain books would be a good way to make that seem like it's you're beyond you being one customer, right? So that's my little anecdote. Take what you can take from that, but a little bit of strategy and tenacity might be required on your part. And even if you go in there and the person that you find is like not really, they're not with it, request an email of one of their buyers so that you can follow up with them via email if the person that you're talking to is not being receptive. Like ask for a contact information of somebody else at the store, especially if they're like, well, that's not really my section. Can you give me the contact information for your buyer of YA literature? So that's it. That's a little anecdote. Take what is useful, leave what is not. We're going to do 30-minute sprints. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about this amazing book, The Undead Truth of Us by Brittany S. Lewis. We'll let y'all know when spoilers come up as they come up. But for now, we have our marching orders. We are about to boost Black. Shay, count us off.
All right, y'all. In 3, 2, 1. Y'all caught in places. That's what y'all say. All right. How did everybody do? How did y'all do with that one? I'm gonna be honest. So it did not go how I thought it was gonna go. So apparently, like in Oklahoma, they have decided that like when you call individual libraries, you actually get routed to like a main branch that answers the call for all the libraries, which is a big issue for me because that means that there's no guarantee they'll be in the actual library that I want them to go to. And so I called my play sister. I was like, hey, you got a Tulsa library card? No, all right. Can I put your address down and have a card sent to your house in my name so I can like request for specific libraries? Because, and then it was like, oh, I can't request it for you. You can go online and do it. So what's the point? And y'all answer whatever. Okay. So, y'all, now I got a temporary Tulsa library card number, and that's what happened for me. And yeah, I called Tulsa and Oklahoma City because I was like, I already know it's gonna be here for Stillwater because I've already done it. And the other thing is that I wanted to make sure we were getting physical copies, because it was like I've already requested virtual and online copies for at least Oklahoma City because I have Overdrive and Libby, so you can request through there. So that was mine. How did yours go?
Fine. So, yeah, pretty encouraging. Although this work is like, administrative work is harder than people think it is. Anything that requires you calling and talking to somebody and getting into their systems and do you have this or can you do that? Like, that is it.
And it's a real issue because it's like that's a very important job and they don't get paid their worth at all. Like
No,
admin
and
people,
so it makes
they
it
get off.
difficult for you to hang them up on the phone for a long time talking about a single book and they're like, listen here, they don't pay me enough to have this conversation. And so, yeah, it went fine for me. I think I will have that same issue when I call libraries on the next print. I called bookstores this time. So they're not centrally connected. So I was just talking to individual people. So like I said, I already went to one bookstore physically this morning and got it down. So that was already one of 5 taken care of. And so I called the next one that I know of. They didn't answer, so I'm going to go on their website, find the appropriate person and email them. I called 20 Stories and talked to one of their founders actually, and she was like, oh, okay, wow, didn't know that was happening. Go on our site, we have a request order form. They're a smaller bookstore, so who knows if they'll be able to, but I did a very, I don't know, it took me a while to like get done with that order form because I wrote them a full email on that message thing, because I'm like, I know that y'all are smaller, but again, like I said, this is not about a single book. This is about being anti-racist. And so even if you're like, well, Brittany, I don't know if we can stop the Undead Truth of Us. I want you to, but you need to do something to address this being in policy as a bookstore. And so I went ahead and took the opportunity to sit with that request longer to craft an email that I would be able to use for other bookstores as I email them. Because I'm going to email the symposium one. So yeah, and I basically said what I said to you all. My call was prompted in the wake of Barnes & Noble's new policy, et cetera, et cetera. In closing, although BNN may not consider their new policy racist, it most certainly participates in a larger system of racism and xenophobia with which traditional publishing has a long history, blah, 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 right? These sort of things. So I pulled together as articulate a missive as possible to argue my case for why they need to get this book. And so if you feel like maybe you don't, like you need more time to think about it, if you're not the person who can debate someone in person, and it may not be a debate, right? But if you are feeling nervous about calling, libraries have emails. Their circulation desks, their buying desks, they have emails. And my librarians check their emails pretty often, at least. And so if you think that emailing is where you would best be able to present your case for Tutu, then I would certainly say use these prints to write an email for bookstores. Choose 5 bookstores, go on their websites, spelunk a little bit, find the appropriate email, just call and say, hey, I was trying to find the contact information for your buyers. Could you give me their email? And then send your email that way. You don't have to call people if that makes you uncomfortable. Write you a good solid email and send that out, right? That's 1 phone call and 5 easy sends. So it was a good thing. I'm actually going to call back one of these bookstores now because he needed to check the circulation to see whether or not they had Tutu. So I'm going to turn back over to Shay, but I called three bookstores and put in 1 request. I'm about to put in a 2nd request, and I will send this 3rd request when I find the appropriate email. And then I have 1 more to call to make 5. So it's going well. This longer than 30 minutes, but this will get us a good start. And then, you can roll it over to the next sprint. You'll have your email. It'll be easier, et cetera, et cetera. How did y'all do in the chat?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I did libraries and now I'm switching from libraries to bookstores. And so I just found like there's only one indie bookstore here, and it already has the Undead Truth of Us, or however it has it, it's like already on the website to where it'll like ship in 1 to 5 days. So I've looked up some other ones, and I have those that I'm gonna call next sprint. So we'll jump in from the comments and who joined. Okay, so Miss Maya came in here. KJ, hey everyone, it's so good to see you, KJ. Kaylee says these covers are amazing, and Barnes and Noble are ridiculous for not stocking these. Hard agree. Frankie says that's so sad. Like it's not hard enough out here, and to have your author dream be crushed at the last minute like that sucks so much, right? Especially because, like to be honest, what Barnes and Noble has done essentially is level the playing field between indie authors and traditionally pub authors in this space, right? Because this is part of the reason why people choose traditional publishing is to get their books into Barnes and Noble, because it's supposed to pretty much be guaranteed. SM Ryan says this is not a short-sighted choice. They know the authors and communities this decision impacts directly. So glad this is today's discussion. Yes, yeah, because again, like everyone, it can be like, well, it affects everyone. It does, but you know who it also is going to disproportionately affect, right? We are already fighting tooth and nail to get you guys to see our stories as valid. We're already having to traumatize them in order for you to think they're valid. And to top it off, then you're going to be like, oh, you did all that and it's still not. I can't imagine being authors dealing with this right now. Like I really can't. Craplin says that's what is so frustrating. It's already hard, and now you want to make this so much more difficult. I can't imagine a gut punch when they're so exactly. Because if anyone's been following Brittany S. Lewis, you know she has been excited about this dang near new reel every day. Like she is really excited about this, and I'm not gonna lie, her enthusiasm for her book is part of what made me want to read it outside of Britt's love for the story, was because I was just so excited for her and how happy she was to get her words out there. Miss Books with Brandy, Miss Shanae, I don't know where that M was coming from. May didn't want to miss this. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. Miss Maya said I gotta run, but don't forget to hit that like button, y'all, and harass your local librarians to get the Undead Truth of Us on shelves. Please do. Literary Lady, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Chloe. Yes, Chloe. Okay, so in my head, I was like, say Chloe, don't say Cleo, because people usually say Cleo's name and says Chloe instead of Cleo, and I always want to make sure I don't do that with you. Hi, so good to see you. Chloe says, I like how solution oriented you both are and the savvy about the publishing industry you bring to your solutions. Thank you so much. We try. Chloe also says, I checked my library, has physical copies and some e-copies. I requested e-copies and audiobooks on some of the other platforms. Also tried to find some bigger stores in my area, only no small ones. Right, me too. Elizabeth says, my library carries in all forms. Come on, Elizabeth's library, be on it. So I was pretty happy and put a hold on a copy. Also, several of my local bookstores already have it. Elizabeth, where you live? Do we need to move there? We need to move over there because it definitely ain't that way over here. No worries. Okay, so honestly, we could just do another sprint and then talk about the book, the next one, honestly, because it's kind of like, let's kind of do that. How do you feel about that? We're gonna talk about it. Okay, cool, got it. All right, let's get this timer back up.
So if you did libraries the first sprint, you're now doing bookstores. If you did bookstores the first sprint, you're now doing libraries, unless you need to like finish up some calls you were making from either one of those and then transition on over.
Right, y'all. All right, y'all. In 3, 2, 1, y'all call them stores. All right. How did everybody do? Let me know how you did in the comments. How did my lovely co-host do? Okay, she might be on call. Okay, so I contacted or reached out to 7 different places. A couple that I had on the list to reach out to when I went through their website, I found it. So I found it at the Books a Million in Tulsa, and I found it at the indie bookstore here. And then there's one that I called that I have to call back on Tuesday because it's one specific person who orders books and he doesn't come back into Tuesday. 2 that had online request forms to fill out, and then 1 that I didn't find any way to fill out one, so I'm still gonna try to call that one. And then there were 2 more that they didn't have it on their website, but they did have it in store. When I called, like they didn't have like where you could see any books that they had on their bookstore. So that was how mine went. Let's see. Elizabeth said, I think it's because there are so few bookstores that aren't used bookstores, so it's only a handful. Yeah, it's because I was trying to call bookstores that carry new books, since I knew that since I knew it just came out this month. I knew there's like a slim chance of used bookstores having it right now. Jules, the dawdling writer, it is so good to see you. I hope you are having a great Saturday. Jules says, hello. I hope your weekend is going well. It is. It is not moving too badly right now, honestly. And being able to do this and support Brittany Lewis in her debut, The Undead Truth of Us, is truly a blessing, and it's a story that like I'm really glad to be reading. We had stupid people join. Britt says that's definitely something I'm running into. So many are like, well, that sucks, but we don't buy debuts either. Right. Which I understand that specifically more on like indie booksellers as well. Like not getting as many debuts, especially, because their debuts they're by unknown authors. Which is really sad because that's why, again, Barnes and Noble is so important. Can y'all hear me? Can everybody hear me? I'm not muted or anything, right? There's like people still here and whatnot. So I'm not seeing any comments, and Britt hasn't come back, so I'm not entirely sure that she knows that we're done with the sprint. Because it's like,
sorry, y'all. I was on the phone with the librarian.
That's what I thought. I was like, let me text just to be on the safe side. Because then I was like, is my mic working? Can y'all hear me? Because nobody else has said anything either. So I was like, that don't let me know if y'all can hear me or not.
No, yeah. This library thing, I was like, let me just call a librarian and ask a bunch of questions, because there has to be a way to get underneath that we just share books all around thing. And so she was very helpful, because at first she was telling me to do what I already did, which is like, oh, you can go on essentially Overdrive, but like the library's page that Overdrive sends me to, and like make a request or make a recommendation. And I was like, yeah, I did that. I was just wondering if, because they share books, if it would actually result in multiple copies of this book being purchased. And she had mentioned randomly, because I hadn't even mentioned Barnes and Nobles. Yeah, I was just trying to understand their book buying practices for the community libraries and their branches. And she was like, yeah, I mean, she looked it up and she was like, well, the book's not out yet. I said, oh, it is though. And she was like, well, look on the author's page. It came out August 9th. So whether or not she's updated her page, her website, it came out August 9th. Oh, well, we're looking at we definitely want to support more stories that have Black main characters on the cover and da-da-da. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tuck that away for later. And so later when she was like, oh, like you can recommend, I was like, I'm just trying to understand how to get multiple copies sold, especially after Barnes and Noble's thing. Let's just personally figure it out, that whole spiel. And she was like, oh yeah. Then she was not much more helpful. She was already helpful, but she then reoriented to the sort of specificity that I was after, which is getting multiple copies in multiple libraries. And so she actually gave me another library to call, and she was like, their librarian's all about it. She's a Black librarian. She loves pushing Black books, so you might want to give her a call. So I may call her in a second while you're going through comments. But yeah. Are you muted? Okay, I was like, her lips are moving, but I'm not hearing.
Yeah, no, I was muted then. I was saying there's really not any to go through, but Elizabeth. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to call on the guy who was only publishing his book, but was accidentally listed as a bookstore. I was cracking up when I hung up. That's funny. I'd have laughed too. I'd laugh too. Hopefully he was a good sport about it. I don't know why they did that.
I'm sorry I can't help you, but good luck on your publishing.
Right. Well, the last thing we're going to do is just talk about the book a little bit.
Let's do it. That library doesn't close until 4, and we'll be off by then. So I'll just go.
Right. Like we literally could do this and wrap up. So like I said, I am halfway through The Undead Truth of Us. So I don't by any means know like how the book is going to end. There are a few things that I've been like, hey, Britt, woo, to see if I'm right about. Let's see if I'm right about. I knew for the way that the story is going, and for what I was like, I told Britt, what I was hoping she would do with this story, when I think of stories in this category of like dealing with the death of a parent, that I think that doesn't happen. Is she gonna touch it? And it looks like she's gonna touch it, and I'm just so excited about it. But the interesting thing for me about the book so far and how I feel about it is that I love it. It is very compelling. I want to keep reading. I say that to say that it's a hard book for me as someone dealing with grief, and I have to stop occasionally because it's making me sit with my thoughts and sit with my feelings and how I've been dealing with grief and my thoughts on grief. So that's a hard thing for me. Like a book I don't want to stop reading because it's so good, but a book that I need to stop reading so I can process. And I'm loving that. I'm loving how I'm watching her stretch this metaphor and let it touch so many different areas. I'm loving how it's Black AF. It's blacky, black with a big B. There is never a time where a Black child talks to their mom out the side of their neck and doesn't get addressed. It's happened to 2 characters at this point. 2 different mamas at this point. And it's like, it makes sense because the book that y'all know that I hate that I read last year and the book that you know that I hate that I read this year, both of these Black characters was talking to their mama like any kind of way. And their mama was just like
going back and forth with them like it was a regular occurrence.
Just letting it, not even correcting it or saying anything, just being like, complacent about it. It was a lot.
Which here's the thing for me about that also. Because it's not like Black kids don't act up with their parents. It's not like Black kids don't try it. They do. They just don't make a habit of it because it's never successful.
Right.
So like, it's not like we're saying present Black kids like they're just like well behaved and da 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 da. Just like give the real scenario. When you do that, you gonna wake up in next Thursday. That's just what happens.
Well, that, and then the also thing you have to realize is what Black kids do to try their parents are completely different and how white kids try their parents.
Oh yeah, we're not going to the house from the door talking about I hate you.
Nobody cussed at their parent.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, it wasn't that. Nobody threatened their parent. There wasn't no I hate you. There was in expressing your feeling and how you feel about something and just stepping a tad outside of your minorhood and trying to elevate yourself to the level of an adult. And it's the adult reminding you that no, we're not at the same level. You are still a child. And by child, I mean mine. So there's ways that you're going to behave. And in both situations, the mothers were like, you cool, but don't do too much. Hello. Right? Because like with Bo's mom, she was like, he's always like this. But she still corrected you in front of your friend because there's certain things and levels of disrespect I'm never going to allow you to do.
I don't care where we are or who's around.
Right. Same with Zari's mom when she was like, lower your voice. Remember who like, I'm not explaining myself to you. Now, I understand why you heard what you heard and you thought I was defending him, but know this, you don't know and understand everything. And it's just like, it's the gathering together of your children without having to lay a hand on them, without having to raise your voice, with both moments starting with a look and then the sentence. It's just everything. For me.
It reminds me of Elizabeth Acevedo's Poet X, that whole text about Mira Muchacha.
Right.
That where it's like, look here, girl.
Look here. Look, girl. Look at me. Look.
We're not gonna do this, then the third, okay? Like it's that moment. Yeah, I love it. And it's also not verbally abusive, which is another stereotype of Black parents in that, oh, y'all's kids are afraid of you. I have a respectful fear of my parents and that I'm not gonna try them in certain ways, but I'm not in terror of them.
Right.
And it's just like I'm just not gonna do this.
I think there's a difference between downright fear and reverence and deference.
There's definitely, yes. And there's a difference for parents. People interpret that as fear.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, no, I know that I'm not in a position to challenge you in this way because I respect who you are as a parent. Now, I do acknowledge that I am a human and I'm going to express myself. And there are going to be times, no matter who you are, that you are going to step outside of respect sometimes, especially if you feel that you're being disrespected or you're not being heard. That is a part of how we move as humans, right? But again, it's the calm gathering for me. It's the not raising your voice. It's not making a spectacle. It's the not embarrassing your child, but correcting your child.
Right.
I just love.
I love it. I love it.
Because we've talked about this numerous times. We're so sick of books that have absent Black parents or that have Black parents that are there, but they're not giving guidance. They're not teaching. They're not nothing. It's like, again, we've said it before, like it seems like that's a trope, but it really feels like it's bad writing. Like you can only write a handful of characters. It really feels like you don't know how to study your craft when you can't write parents to your main character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I've spoken about that on my own channel, like early when I was doing, I think, my facts and factors of literature to the genres, that whole little section where it was just like, can you just not write lots of characters? And here's the thing. It is what it is. I'm not saying that as like you can only write 5 characters. Then you should only write 5 characters and you should do that well and not have 15 characters and all of them got busted parents.
Right.
Like a parent counts as a character. So if you can only have 5 characters, you got your child, their parent or parents, and then the side characters, friends, the villain, whomever. But like you need to count the characters' parents as characters.
Right.
Or the protagonist's parents as characters, but they don't. We've read books where they clearly were not counted as characters.
Right. Totally. Elizabeth said he was cool about it. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Chloe, for letting me know y'all can hear us. Alyssa says, I'm going to physically go into my library and request. I have to return like 10 books. And we love a love that uses the library. They
Absolutely.
have only 4 books for all of Chicago. Wow. They don't have audiobooks. They did purchase ebooks. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. That's progress. Other reasons why we like this book or think book is important.
Bo. I freaking love Bo. I literally, the moment he skated by, I was like, oh, not a black skater boy. We love it. Oh, the Lisa Bonet reference, the Hey Queen reference, her reaction to him calling her a queen. It was all so authentic. I was like, oh, I freaking love it. Oh, I love it so much. And it's not like, oh my gosh, they're couple goals. It's like, no, these are just 2 black kids, just like, one of them is like, hey, you kind of cute, I kind of like you, and her being like, I'm not really available and you're kind of annoying, but I guess I kind of maybe will put up with you as well, because maybe I need some IRL friends and not just my bestie who I've never met in person.
Right, that part. In today's stream this morning, it took me a while to find it, but I had to find the line that made me like set the book down.
Okay.
And it's a line from Bo, and it says, the top of page 67. Bo glanced at me after catching his breath. I don't know, Z. Maybe you've been loving the wrong people, he said. Say it is an infection, right? But maybe it's only an infection because it's meant to be invasive. That kind of feeling, love, it demands to be felt. And I was like, how do you know? You only 17. How you know? But you know, and I love it because if I was like, are you sure you 17? I mean, I know a grown woman wrote your line, so maybe that's, but it was like, you are wise beyond your years, sir. Like, yeah. I like the maybe you've been loving the wrong people hit.
Message. Golden nugget, pick it up.
I was like, okay, Brittany. Okay, Miss Lewis. I see what you're doing here. I see it. I think that it's super important that you engage with how Zari had been isolating herself for so long before her mother had already died.
Yeah.
She was clinging to her mother like a lifeline long before her mother passed, right? And
she was dependent.
Right. So there's a level of codependence that's there, right? And so it's interesting in which how there's parts of the story where it's like she wishes her aunt would check on her more. She wishes her aunt would ask her more how she's feeling, ask her more what she's doing. Oh, got you. What I was gonna say, dang, I lost my track of thought. Only because when you look at it, you realize that she's done the same thing, right? Like, and she did the same thing to her aunt. Like, you're not asking your aunt how she's feeling about this because it's not your business, right? But you're not thinking about, you know, how many people are reaching out to you, trying to talk to you, trying to make sure you're okay. How many people are reaching out to your aunt? Right. In the chapter that I just finished, we were talking about how it was a small chapter, but it showed so much about the family dynamic and what was going on, because we talk about how, like, as children, you don't understand, you don't see things, you don't see the full picture because you only have the experience that you have in that moment. So Zari is like, she works and goes to school at night, but Zari isn't taken into account. She's the first person in her family to ever go to college. If you've never had family go to college, you don't know what it's like to go to college. So you don't know how hard that pressure is to be the first. right? Like, think about that in just our history as Black people. The pressure it was for Jackie Robinson to be the first, right? Like, there's so much pressure on that. And there's so much not folding that you feel that you can't do because you got to do this for everybody that's coming behind you.
And now you're raising a 17-year-old daughter.
Right.
And grieving your big sister.
Right.
Who,
and you're
right, if I'm remembering correctly, they'd already had some distance between them, the sisters, right?
The sister is 11 years older. So this is a big difference. Having a sibling that's 11 years older than you, who when she goes off to competitions, her daughter is staying with you and your mom. And so you got this big sister that's dancing all across the country and all these, like, you're gonna be attached to her in a different way than those of us who are like 2, 3, 1 year apart from our older siblings. Right. Like, there's that. And so there's just so much about how we deal with grief, right? There's so much to be said about how the aunt just picks up. You're here, right? She's picking up more shifts. She's working more. She's in and out. But she did this at the drop of a hat because her sister died and her niece needed someplace to go. As a kid, you're like, why isn't she talking to me? But you haven't taken into consideration, because to you as a child, somebody got to take care of me.
Right. And that's the other thing, though, is like, you are a child, but you're an older child. You could be working.
Right.
And you're not dancing anyway. Like,
I talked about that scene where she was like, I said, there's something to be said about being able to be a high schooler, and your view on work is, I only wanted to do a job because I wanted to, or because I wanted to pay for something I wanted. Because I was a child that had to get a job in high school to pay bills for my family, right? Like, it was I knew this I was waiting to turn 16 to be able to get a job. Like, I was waiting for that day to be able to help, right? And to think that, again, because you're a child, you're not thinking about the people who've already been doing this. You're not thinking about the fact that you technically don't even have to get a job. All you have to do is swallow your pride and call your daddy, but you don't want to.
Right. Which I understand that. Like, the way that
I understand not wanting to
responded to the mom's death, like, nah, you can kick rocks forever.
Right. Totally get. But in my head, if I'm not going to call him, then I got to get a job.
Exactly.
Like, I'm choosing not to call him because I don't, so then I got to suck it up. But that isn't her thought. Because again, she's a child who hasn't had to think about these things. Right. And so I just love it. I love it because, again, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's realistic. And that's the thing, is like, even when it's not beautiful, even when it's not mature, this is what it is. This is where you are in these circumstances when you're grieving and you're this old and you're doing all this shuffling. Like, it's very overwhelming. What comes out is what comes out. And even if it's like not considerate of everyone around you, well, who is? Especially 17-year-old kids who just lost their mom. Like, no, she's not going to be considerate of anyone else. And she's not.
Right. Exactly. And I think that it's honest, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like all these things are not going to be addressed with the way the story is going, right? Like, I feel like you're going to come to terms and have to address that your aunt is grieving too, and that the way she grieves is different from you. And you're going to have to address that you have to see the situation from her point of view. Like, that's going to be, I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's going to be addressed, because I don't feel like this author doesn't take care to do things like that.
It's a very thorough treatment of grief and all of the things we've already touched on.
As I've been reading it, I'm just like, I like that you are doing this. I like that you are doing this because I see like the need for these things, right? Yeah. And you never deny Zari her grief. You never deny her these feelings, right? Like, there's a moment where she's at lunch and she's searching her aunt's face for moments of her mom, right? And I was in therapy on Wednesday and I was crying because one of the hardest things about losing my grandma is whenever I share a picture, you guys tell me how much I look like her. And no matter how hard I try, I can't find my face in her face. And my therapist was like, why does it make you sad? I was like, because I want to see what everybody else sees. I just want to feel like I can see her one more time.
Mm.
And when I read that scene, I was like, I literally just told somebody this out loud 3 days ago. This woman wrote this book years ago. There's no way she could know outside of being someone who's had to deal with grief.
Right. An authentic expression of going through
you're
this.
looking, right? Like that part of the scene and the fact that you were looking and couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ache.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hurt. And I just, y'all, I ain't finished the book. And I know,
so good.
I just know because every book that we have read almost from YA in the last few years has had a dead parent or a missing parent or an absent parent.
Yeah.
And none of these books have I seen these things addressed in this way.
This is definitely a book where it's like if you want to write grief, you need to reread this book to see how it's carried through as part of the character that is not going to go away. And it's not just like in the background, it is affecting how she responds to everyone. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good. Hey, KJ.
Everyone's calling, going. I had to take a break to run some errands, but I called 2 stores. One says they have 5 copies. The other store was closed. I'll call my libraries next. Yeah. So, I got like 4 or 3 virtual requests sent in. I got a library card so I can go register so I can go to these other libraries and do it online because they won't let you do it over the phone. And then other places I had either talked to them on the phone and requested it or they already had it in stock. So we definitely had like a good amount of calls.
Yeah.
Put in. So true. It's an 8 for sure. When my cousin, who was my best friend, died from lupus, this book had me in my feelings. Completely agree. Completely agree. And again, like y'all know me, like I if I don't like a book, I don't like a book. And this one hasn't been wrecking me in a way that I don't think is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and it's like this book is meant for teenagers. I am 31 years old, will be 32 the end of this year, and it is requiring me to examine how I'm dealing with grief, especially as my grandmother's birthday just passed, especially as my cousin and my sister's birthday just passed, like all those things. And I love it for that. I love it for that.
Yeah. It's literally that I can't say anything, but it's so good. And immaculate is the word.
Right.
Immaculate is the word because it's so, even the pretext, right? Even when we're just looking at the cover, it is this abstracted but very clear presentation and exploration of beauty, right? It's Van Gogh-esque. Like it's the Starry Night where you're looking at a starry night, but it also seems like a little bit abstracted. Like it's a representation of a starry night. It's very much a representation of it. And that representation, that awareness that it's a representation allows you to explore it deeper than you would just looking up at a sky. Because it's a representation, you're looking at it differently. And the fact that we're looking at a Van Gogh-esque representation of Zari, we're like, oh, okay, so this is a representation of something that's sort of abstracted, but made clearer somehow by the fact that we are very clearly looking at a representation of a thing. And I think that the quote that Shay read is just a textual example of that sort of Van Gogh-esque abstraction where we're looking at something like a starry night, like a sunflower, like love, like grief. Well, what if it is an infection? Right? Like those sort of meta questions where it's like, okay, let's run that through. What if this? Doesn't that just mean this? And is that a bad thing if? And what does that tell you about how you've been interacting with other people? Like it's just, that's what I mean when I say immaculate. It is so very self-aware and grounded at the same time as it encourages you to like completely just explore with great depth within yourself how, like, why are these things giving you the feels and how is Zara like it's just so good.
No, I completely agree. I think it's when dang, there was a way I wanted to say this properly. Goodness gracious, how was I gonna say it? When we talk about like books having a message, but they're not heavy handed with it, it's just the message falls on you. This is one of those books, right? Like I said this when I was talking about it earlier with Maya. The thing that I love about the book is that it's teaching you that grief is a side effect of love. Like, you don't grieve things you don't love. You don't grieve things that didn't mean something to you at one point in one time, right? And that to think of grief as like the absence of love is the wrong part of that, right? Because it's not. It's something that comes along with it. It's why the ache of missing her mom. Okay, why is it not letting me block from here? No, hold on. Let's fix this because it timed them out and I want them blocked. Give me a second. I don't know what is making this happen. Remove. Is that the message or the like person? No, it says I hit them on this channel, so it shouldn't. Let's also report. Sorry, y'all. I just want to make sure this is like done because I'm sick of this. Okay, got you. All right. Yeah, this is 3 times.
Got it. So I'm looking at it. It's been deleted by you.
You were typing, you gotta mute yourself or unmute yourself. Yes, grief is a side effect of love and care. Love that perspective. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we have hit a little bit over the 2-hour mark. Again, definitely think everyone should read The Undead Truth of Us by the lovely Brittany S. Lewis. We'll definitely probably have a book discussion about it later once I finish it and have like gathered all my thoughts together and whatnot. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for reaching out to call for this lovely, amazing book. Definitely check out the links that are now in the description box to just get more context. I know I didn't click on all of them, and I might have read them fast, so you might not have felt like you got like a thorough picture. So those are in the description box as well. What were you gonna say, Britt? I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I wish we had had people like people sort of did like say having people that they call so we could sort of get a count of the impact.
People yeah. That would definitely have been nice, but I know people are like doing things and whatnot.
We're in and out, yeah. So I think some people reported it.
Yeah, no, definitely some people told us for sure. So we definitely appreciate you guys. For real, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping us support Miss Lewis on this book. Y'all are great. We will have next month's Writerly Conversation will be alive. We will be on Brit's channel discussing Blood Like Fate by Lizelle Senberry, the sequel to Blood Like Magic that came out last year. And actually be because that was our first ever live Writerly Conversation.
Wow.
And so it's kind of nice to come back and
and we just had our friend's anniversary too. We didn't really call it out as that, but I met you on the day before my birthday.
Yeah, we met each other the day before our birthday, so it's like our like official like meeting each other, and then like our friendship started to grow over those next few months and everything. But I was like, we were laughing about it because like I've gotten to tell her happy birthday for 3 years now. So
yeah, and I was like, what?
Right? Yeah.
Because I just couldn't imagine that because I thought that I met Shay after I got my channel, and I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary. So I was like, how is that possible?
Right, because we met in 2020. And this is the 3rd year.
Wow.
Right. Math, time.
Literally, I'm like, oh, this is the start of my 3rd year on BookTubes.
Right.
I just finished.
You just finished the second
That's
one.
how that works. Oh, okay. Yeah. Time is wild.
Right.
It keeps moving.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you guys so much. I will see y'all tomorrow for Self-Care Sunday. Y'all be easy.